Daf Pei Aleph Amud Beis. We'll begin Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, one line from the bottom. Boy mine Rabba Barav Shila me Rav Chizda Ma'u Lahaloisam Achrav Lagag. So continuing on with the discussion of the Beis HaKisei, the stones for the Beis HaKisei, that the Chacham or Matir Mishum Kavod Abriyos. Can a person even take them up to a rooftop if that's where his Beis HaKisei is? Can he take it up to the rooftop and carry it there? Is there a problem over there in this case because of Tircha Yisera, that he's being matriach, he's exerting himself excessively? The Kavod Abriyos is so great that it's daiche the loisasa, as Rashi explains. The lav that we're talking about is the loisasa min adover shel yarucha, that it's daiche the rabbanon of the muksa and the tircha of the stones, and therefore it is mutter. Yasim Mereva Carmelo Lahash might say, Isim Ravina Lamarema, Rabbi Lazarim, Naitel, Adam, Kisim Shalafonov, a person can take a splinter of wood that's in front of him, Lachsus by Shinov, to use it as a toothpick. But Chacham say no, it's muksa only from the avos of the behema, from the trough of the behema, where there it was already mukhan, it's not muksa. But to take it from what's lying on the ground, which is not designated, which is not mukhan, is a muksa. So you see here, even though it is an inyan of Kavod Abriyos, because if he has something unsightly in his mouth, it's Kavod Abriyos. Nevertheless, the Chachamim were not matir over here. We say, Chamamim lo yitel el minei v'shel behemam from the Gemara Achiyash. Samadam kavei makom l'suda. Over there, a person is kavei makom l'suda. So over there, he knows where he's going to eat, and he should have prepared and designated his toothpicks. And therefore, if he didn't, then he's at fault. So the Chamim found no reason to be mad to that. But Adam kavei makom l'beis HaKisei. Over in those days, the Beis HaKisei, there was no set Beis HaKisei. A person, therefore, didn't know where he would end up going, and therefore he was not really practically able to prepare himself for that, and therefore they were matir for Kavod Abriyos, they were matir the muksa. As he says, on a plowed field, it's also to relieve himself on a plowed field in Shabbos. My time, what's the reason? If it's because he's trampling on the field and he's ruining the person's plowed field, he's by walking on it, he tramples on it and hardens it and undoes the charisha. If that's the case, then it should be also in the weekday as well, not only on Shabbos. Vela mishum asovim. Ella, you'll tell me it's mishum asovim, that over there he picks up a stone, and since it's a plowed field, there's moisture, there's grass growing on the stone, and he'll be high for that for tailish. If you have a stone that has grass growing on it, it's mutter to use it. But if he does it intentionally, if he removes it intentionally, he's tailish it, and he's mekaven for it, then he's chayav. He's chayav chatas. We'll see what that means in a moment. But if he's not, it's a davar shein mischaven, and it's mutter. So what do we see over here? That an account of the asavim, the fact that he's picking up the stones and he is detaching the grass, as long as he's not mechaven for it, he doesn't have kavana for it, and therefore it's mutter. So why would this be also on Shabbos? Ella, the Gemara says, Dilma nakin miloi v'shal tatoi. What we're afraid is he might take something from that's a higher level and put it down on a lower area. He might take a stone that's higher, or a clump of earth that's higher, and put it on a lower area. And then he'll be chayav on account of what Rabbah says. If there was a pit and he closed it up, the bias, if it's in a house, he's chayav mishum baina. That's considered baina. If he levels the floor in a house, that's considered a building's baina. If it's in a field, he's chayav mishum chayrish. that's considered to be plowing, leveling the field, leveling the ground in the field makes it more suitable for planting. So that's what we're concerned about over here. That therefore he should not be nifna. He should not relieve himself in a sodanir because he might come to level off the ground. Gufa Amreish Lakish Sor Shalom Yasam Mutalkanech. It's slow at Sor that there was grass growing from it. It's Mutalkanech Bava Tailish Mimena B'Shabbos Chayiv Chatos. But if one is tailish from it, he detaches the grass, is Chayiv Chatos. And Rashi explains over here that even though it says Chayiv Chatos, we don't mean literally it's Chayiv Chatos. We don't mean that literally this is considered Chayiv Chatos, because if it would be Chayiv Chatos, then Reish Lakish would not be matrit, and we would not say that if he's not machav, then it would be mutter. If there was an iser derais over here, we would not be matrit even if he's not machav. What we mean over here is that there's an iser derabanan over here. There's an iser derabanan. It's not a chiyav chatas, mamish a chiyav chatas. It's considered only a iser derabanan. And we'll see why. We'll see what's involved in this momentarily. We can learn out from Reish Lakish said that high parpisa, that flower pot, a otzitz. Rashi learns it's an otzitz nokav. It's a perforated pot. Charlotte taltuling. It's mutter to be metaltulit. Now there are two issues over here. One issue is a muksatik shaila, and one is a toilish shaila of detaching it from the ground. So we can learn out from Reish Lakish that this parpisa is mutter to be metaltal. Now, as far as the muksa is concerned, so it's designated. It's a designated item, as Rashi explains. It's used for reyach, and people have they use it by their shulchan, by their tables, and other areas. So it's designated and has a purpose, and therefore that makes it mutter to be metaltal. It's not muksa. The other issue is detaching it from the ground. Just like Reish Lakish learns that you can pick up the stone, and you can pick up the stone even though there's a sovim, and you can use a v'kinuach, and it's not considered to be toilish. You're not considered detaching it from the ground. So here also, the otzitz, even though it's perforated and it's drawing yanika, it's drawing nutrients from the ground, the fact that he lifts it up, it's mutter. It's not considered toilish. So therefore you can learn from Reish Lakish, just like you can pick up the stone that has a sovim, and it's mutter to do it as long as he's not machavin. So here also you can pick up a parpisa, and even though it's perforated and it's drawing nourishment from the ground, then you can also use it, and it's not a problem of toilish, it's not a problem of muksa. Maskav lorav kahana. If they allowed it to do the tzror. Reish Lakish said, well, there's a sovim, they were matret, that's l'tzarach, because there's a need for kavod abrius. He asked them to use it. Should they say to pick it up where there's no need, where there's no tzarach to do it? Now that we mentioned there's lema b'milsa, let's discuss this inyan of this perforated flower pot. Agav, the Lechem Mishnah learns in the Rambam that it is not discussing a perforated flower pot. It's discussing one that's not perforated. It would be perforated, it would not be mut. But Rashi says, and also it's nagav. Agav, Rashi also mentions that there's a makor over here for the minig of kaporas. He says this otzitz, that is parpisa, they used to use it and plant seeds in it and plants in it and use it, and they used to turn it around the heads of the Bnei Mishpacha before Rosh Hashanah. So as they used to do it, so similar to what we do by kaparas. Al kol panim. So lema b'milsa. Let us mention something about this parpisa. Ayamunach al gabe karka. If this pot was on the ground, ve'niach al gabe yasedus, and he lifted it up, so he removed it, distanced it from the ground, and put it on stilts, on posts. Mechai mishum toilish. he is chai mishum toilish because he distanced it from the place of Yanika, from the place of his growth. It is like severing it. It's like being toilish it, so he's chai mishum toilish. Rashi says, like we mentioned, this is not deraisa, even though it says chayiv, and normally chayiv means deraisa. This is not a chayiv deraisa, it's an isur derabanan. As he mentioned before, because it would be a deraisa, Reish Lakish would not be matter the srayers. If it was on posts, and then he put it down to the ground, now it's Chaim Mishum Leiteya. And it's Chaim Mishum Leiteya because now it's considered planting it. It's considered planting it. So the question is, why is this not a deraisa? Now, according to the Rambam, who learns that it's not an otzitz nok if it's not perforated, we can understand because there's no real direct yanika from the ground, so distancing it from the ground or putting it close on the ground really wouldn't make much of a difference because it's not perforated, so it's not mamash, a yanika. But according to Rashi, that it's an otzitz nokov, why is this not called tailish deraisa, or why is it not called zareya deraisa? Why is it only a derabana tigaden? So the one approach is because we are saying over here it's not considered the rice because in any event there still is yanika. The fact that it's further away or closer to the ground, but there still is a yanika, so midaraisa is considered to be still yoinik from the ground. So, however, according to that approach, then if there was something that mamish separated it from the ground, and there was a complete separation, there was no open air, then theoretically that would be a deraisa. And that's one of the reasons that the Lechem Mishnah has difficulty with Rashi's pshat, because just because you say by a stone that has grass growing on it, that lifting up the stone is not considered a tailish deraisa, well, perhaps that's because there's a separation between the grass and the ground, that being the stone. But how can you draw a comparison to the case of the parpisa, the perforated pot? Another approach of the Dovid is it's not considered the rice because that's not the place of its growth. That's not really where it grows. When we talk about tailish or zarei, we're talking about in the ground. The fact that it gets nourishment from the ground through the air is not considered to be really mechuber lekarka min hatayra, and therefore it's not considered a tailish or naiteya. He says to use cheres, shards of clay on Shabbos to be mekaneach is also my time. What's the reason? Mishum sakona. If you'll say it's because of sakona, we consider it a sakona to use these. We're afraid that it'll cut him, and then it's considered a sakona. Then afila b'chol nami. Then it should be also not only a Shabbos, it should be the weekday also. If we're afraid it's sakona that it'll cut the rectum. Maybe you'll say the reason is because if kishuf is considered, he would be a person susceptible to kishuf if he used this clay, shards of clay. If you look whole nami, also on the weekday should be also not only Shabbos. Maybe you'll say it's because on Shabbos you're afraid that he'll cut the hairs of the rectum. And that's strictly a Shabbos-tic issue, not a chol. That's why he mentioned that it's also on Shabbos. Well, if that's the case, frankly, he's not intending to do that, to cut the hairs, and it's not a psik ratio, so why should it be also? Name about time. A great person said something, we have to give an explanation. Not only on it's also you might think that that it's also. Then it would be also to do this on chol, for the reasons mentioned, because of either sakon or kshaf. But by Shabbos, I would say it would be preferred to use this over stones because it has a teres clean, it's not muksa, and the stones are muksa. So I might say that it's preferred on Shabbos, even though on the weekday you would not use it for the aforementioned reason, but on Shabbos, since it avoids the muksa problem, because these shards of clay can be used and have different applications for even on Shabbos, they have a use for it, and it has a teres kli on it that can be used to collect certain things in them. or to stir certain things with them. So I might think, therefore, it's preferred over the stones. That no. Nevertheless, we take the stones which are muksa, we're still matrit, it's preferred over the cheres. Even on Shabbos, we do not use the cheres. He learned that the reason is because of cutting of the hairs, v'kashale, and Rav Yochanan, and then he had a stira in Rav Yochanan, Rav Yochanan also l'kaneach b'cheres b'Shabbos. How could Rav Yochanan say that it's also l'kaneach b'cheres on Shabbos? Did he really say that? Amud Yomi Masechet also. Now he's not intending to cut the hairs, so that would imply that he holds Dovid Yomi Masechet is also. I've Rav Yochanan Gestam Mishnah. Rav Yochanan said he had a principle that Halach Gestam Mishnah Tanan Nazir Chayfif Mufasa. And Nazir, even though he's Asr, he's not allowed to cut his hair, but he could shampoo his hair, he could scrub his hair, but not comb it. Now, what do we see from there? We see from there, well, if he's shampooing his hair, he's not intending to remove the hair, and therefore, Dovid Yomi Masechet is mutter. But he can't comb his hair because it's psikresha. So, however, you see that Rav Yochanan holds like Rav Shimon, the Dovid Yomi Masechet is mutter as long as it's not a psikresha. So how could he say that it's on Shabbos? It's also because of cutting the hairs. Mechuvarta is the reasoning that we said before. Is like Rav Nasan Rav Vaishya, that the reason is that on the weekday it's because of sakana, but loimi baya on the weekday it's also, but on Shabbos it's also awesome. Mike Shofim, so we mentioned that in the weekday you don't use it because of Kshofim. What's the Indian of Kshofim? But they're traveling on a ship. A certain woman said, they said, let me travel with you. And they didn't let her come with them. So she said Kishuf, she said some words of Kishuf, and she froze the ship. It couldn't travel, couldn't move. Then they said something, Sharinu, and it unlocked it, and it was able to travel. She said to them, how can I can't affect you? What can I do against you? Because you don't use chasa, so you're not susceptible. You're not susceptible to my kishiv. And another thing that you don't do, which makes people susceptible to kishiv, is you don't kill lice on your clothing. You don't squash lice on your clothing. And the third thing is, and you don't take a vegetable that's in a bundle, that the gardener bundled in a bundle. You don't slip it out of the bundle and eat it. And you don't take it from a bundle that the gardener tied together, and you don't remove it and eat it, taking it from, slipping it out of the bundle. You untie the bundle and remove the eric, but you don't just pull it out of the bundle. All these three things make the person susceptible to kishiv. You do not do any of these three things, therefore I cannot affect you.